The movie opens with an old wooden box sitting alongside a birthday card and a woman staring at it in absolute terror. She tries to ignore it and starts fixing her hair, but suddenly, half of it comes away right in her hands. She's convinced the box is behind all of this. So she grabs a hammer and moves toward it, ready to smash it. But the moment she gets close, strange sounds start pouring out of the box, as if it's taken hold of her, seized complete control. Her eyes begin to change, and suddenly her legs lift off the ground. Something invisible picks her up and slams her down onto the floor, over and over, until she collapses unconscious. Meanwhile, her son has been knocking on the front gate repeatedly, and when he hears the bizarre sounds coming from inside, he smashes through the window and rushes in, only to find his mother on the ground, and the sight of her leaves him completely shaken. The scene cuts, and we're introduced to Clyde. We learn that he and his wife have separated. They no longer live together, and a divorce is on the way. In this situation, their two daughters mostly live with their mother, spending only weekends with Clyde. One day, on a day off, Clyde takes them out, and along the way they come across a house selling old belongings. It turns out this is the very same old woman's house, and among all those old things sits that same wooden box, the one responsible for what happened to her. For reasons she can't quite explain, Emily feels drawn to it. She convinces her dad to buy it, and just as they're about to leave, she catches sight of the old woman herself, now wrapped head to toe in bandages. With every ounce of strength she has, the woman screams an "oh" at her, desperately trying to warn Emily not to take the box. But Emily doesn't understand. She's just frightened by the outburst and quickly retreats into her dad's car. They get home, and now Emily needs to open this box. She tries, but it won't budge. Clyde tries every way he can think of, still nothing. So they leave it sitting there like a decorative piece and go to sleep. But in the middle of the night, Emily is woken up by a strange sound. It's coming from inside the box. And the moment she opens her eyes and looks at it, the box opens all by itself, right in front of her. Emily rushes over to look inside. What she finds is unsettling: an old-fashioned ring, a dead moth, a single tooth, and a strange wooden figurine. Emily slips the ring onto her finger, sets the box on her bed, and goes back to sleep. From the moment she puts on that ring, we start noticing something deeply wrong with Emily. She stops laughing. She stops talking. She no longer does any of the things that used to bring her joy. She becomes withdrawn and eerily quiet. Clyde and Emily's sister don't think much of it. They assume she must be coming down with something. But the next night, the same thing happens. Emily is woken at midnight by the sounds from the box. What she does with it this time isn't shown. But when Clyde comes to wake her the next morning, he finds her still sitting in front of the box, and through the small mirror inside it, we can clearly see that Emily has been possessed by some evil entity. Her eyes have changed, and they're visible in the reflection. But the moment Clyde calls her name and she turns to face him, her eyes snap back to normal. Later, at the table, Emily is making a disturbing amount of noise while eating. When Clyde tries to get her to calm down, she drives her fork straight into his hand. Her sister freezes in shock. It's only when Clyde cries out in pain that Emily seems to snap out of it, and when she sees what she's done to her father, she breaks into tears. And right here, this scene makes one thing completely clear. What Emily did wasn't Emily at all. It was the evil entity inside her. Emily herself only came to just now, with no idea how any of this happened. That's why she's crying. Still, no one says much to her, and Emily's increasingly disturbing behavior continues to go largely unaddressed. Another night passes, and the next morning, Emily's sister is brushing her teeth in the washroom when suddenly moths, dozens of them, come flooding in. Terrified, she screams for her dad. Clyde follows the trail straight to Emily's room. He opens her door to a scene that stops him cold. Emily is sitting on her bed, the box in her hands, completely surrounded by hundreds of moths, and she isn't afraid of a single one. He calls out to her, but Emily is completely gone. She doesn't hear him at all, so he scoops her up and carries her out. He has the house fumigated and sends both girls to their mothers. Even after arriving there, Emily calls her dad with one strange, unsettling request: "Take care of my box, and don't open it." That's all Clyde needs to hear to know something is seriously wrong. Despite Emily's warning, curiosity gets the better of him, and he goes and opens the box, finding the very same strange contents Emily had discovered. That night, Emily's condition deteriorates. She goes to the washroom feeling like she needs to vomit, but nothing comes out. Only a horrible sensation, like something is trying to force its way out from inside her. She opens her mouth in front of the mirror and sees 2 fingers inside her mouth. The sight of it terrifies even her. A few days later, Emily has brought the box back with her, and not just brought it back, but now carries it with her everywhere she goes. One day at school, a boy messes with the bag that has her box in it, and she explodes with rage. She beats him badly, leaving him seriously injured. Because of this, her parents are called in. Her teacher concludes that Emily's aggression must stem from her parents' separation. She's disengaged from her studies, keeps to herself, and now this. The box Emily fought over is taken from her and locked in the staff room. That night, strange things begin happening to the teacher as well. The box draws the teacher toward it. When she tries to open it, it won't budge. Then her eyes begin to change, just like the old woman's at the very start of the film. Parts of her body start bending at unnatural angles. She levitates off the ground, and then something hurls her against the walls with brutal force. Unlike the old woman who passed out, this teacher doesn't survive. She dies. The news of her sudden, horrifying death leaves everyone in shock. School is closed the next day, but Emily feels nothing. In fact, she looks at her father with a strangely cold expression and says, "I want that box back, no matter what, and you're going to get it for me." Clyde shouts at her, "What on earth is in that box that she keeps going on about?" Emily says quietly, "There's a friend who lives inside it. She only talks to me." That's enough for Clyde. The box now genuinely frightens him, and he decides he needs to be rid of it. He goes to the school, retrieves the box, but instead of bringing it home, he drives into the woods and throws it somewhere it can't be found. When he gets back, Emily erupts in fury, as though she'd somehow sensed on the way home that something had been done to her box. In the middle of their argument, Emily is suddenly slapped, twice, hard across the face, by something completely invisible. Nobody can see what did it, but her sister walks in at exactly that moment and, seeing only her father standing there, assumes it was him. Emily, terrified, bolts out of the house, and the way she runs makes it unmistakably clear that she is possessed. She runs as if guided, ending up at the very spot in the woods where the box was thrown. Something inside it speaks to her in a strange, unknown language, and astonishingly, Emily answers back in the same tongue. Then moths begin pouring out of her mouth, and she collapses unconscious. Clyde, desperate to reach her, has been chasing after her the whole time. He finds her and carries her home, only to discover that the police have arrived. His older daughter had already called her mother and told her everything, convinced that her father had hit Emily. So her mother had shown up with the police. As a result, the court rules the very next day that the children are no longer allowed to stay with Clyde, ever. For Clyde, this is crushing. But he also knows with absolute certainty that all of this is connected to that box. To find out what they're really dealing with, he takes the box to a professor at his college, an archaeologist who also studies spiritual phenomena. The professor takes one look at it and tells Clyde that this is a Dybbuk box brought over from a Jewish village. Clyde asks what a Dybbuk is. The professor explains, a Dybbuk is an unknown spirit, one that the village people would have imprisoned inside this box through ritual. He examines it and says that Jewish practitioners must have performed extensive rituals to create this box, specifically to trap all the negative entities that might wander near them. After hearing all of this, Clyde understands, whatever has been talking to his daughter, it wasn't a friend. It was something dark, something that now has her completely in its grip. He goes home and searches frantically, reading about possession, about exorcism. That night, he sits beside Emily with a Bible and tries to perform an exorcism himself. He's barely gotten through the first passages when Emily sits up and stares at him in a way that chills him to the bone. The Bible falls from his hands. He realizes this is not something he can handle alone. The next day, he seeks out a Jewish rabbi, the equivalent of a priest in Christianity. The rabbi takes one look at the box and recoils. He takes it to a more senior rabbi. None of them will go near it. They all back away from it. They ask Clyde where he found it. He explains he bought it at an old house, and that ever since, his daughter has been getting worse and worse. The rabbi listens and then tells him, the box contains multiple evil spirits, and they needed a pure heart to latch onto. They found one in his daughter. And now, the only way to free her is to call the spirit by name and command it back into the box. But of course, Clyde has no idea what the spirit's name is. He asks the rabbis to help. They refuse. Performing exorcism inside a synagogue, the Jewish house of worship, is strictly forbidden. Clyde walks out, defeated. But just as he does, the first rabbi comes after him. Something about Clyde's desperation moved him. He agrees to perform the exorcism outside the synagogue, even if it costs him his life. Back home, Emily has become genuinely dangerous. She had always been completely vegetarian, but now, with no awareness of what she's doing, she is eating raw meat in the most disturbing way. When her mother walks in and sees this, she is horrified. She tries to stop Emily, and Emily rises and turns on her. But just in time, Emily snaps back to herself. Shortly after, a friend of Emily's mother arrives at the house. The mother tells him everything. He says he thinks Emily has a psychological issue and suggests taking her to a psychiatrist the next day. Emily overhears all of this, and she is not pleased. The next morning, when the man arrives to take Emily to the psychiatrist, she comes outside on her own without being called, but the state of her is nothing like someone heading to a doctor's appointment. The dark circles under her eyes are severe, her whole demeanor deeply wrong. She stares at the man with a strange, unsettling gaze, and a fierce wind picks up out of nowhere. The man is gripped by sudden, excruciating pain, and one by one, all of his teeth break and fall into his mouth, filling it with blood. Emily's mother watches from inside, frozen in horror. Then Emily collapses. When her mother rushes outside to help her up, she recoils. Moths are pouring from Emily's mouth. Moments later, Emily loses consciousness completely, and her mother rushes her to the hospital. The scene cuts to Clyde and the rabbi together. The rabbi opens the box and breaks the small mirror inside, and there, carved within it, they find the spirit's name. With the name now known, the exorcism becomes far more possible. Clyde rushes the rabbi straight to the hospital where Emily is admitted. The rabbi takes one look at Emily's condition and tells everyone, we need to perform the exorcism right now, right here in this hospital. Emily is running out of time. If they don't act immediately, she may not survive. Emily's mother, who has never believed in any of this, looks at Emily's X-ray and sees it for herself. Something dark and twisted is clearly visible inside her daughter's body. She agrees. The four of them quietly move Emily to the hospital's therapy room, and the rabbi begins the Jewish exorcism. The moment it starts, Emily screams out in agonizing pain. The rabbi places a family photograph of all of them inside the box, and Emily's state worsens dramatically. She screams louder, and the entity takes over completely, fully overriding Emily's body. She attacks all of them and breaks free, fleeing into the hospital morgue, the room where the dead are kept. Clyde follows her inside. Emily launches herself at him the moment he enters, but instead of killing him, she only tortures him, as if something is holding her back from finishing it. And then, within moments, Emily collapses and the evil entity shifts. It moves out of Emily and into Clyde, because Clyde had been pleading over and over, staring at his daughter. Let her go, come into me instead. Clyde carries Emily out, and when everyone sees her looking like herself again, the relief is overwhelming. They believe it's over, but the rabbi knows better. The spirit hasn't left, it has simply changed hosts. He continues the exorcism without missing a beat, calling the spirit by name, Abizu, commanding it to return to the Dybbuk box immediately. He says the name again, and then suddenly Clyde falls. From his mouth emerges a horrifying hand, an enormous, monstrous hand that sends everyone stumbling backward in terror. Then the spirit itself follows, pulling out through his mouth entirely and manifesting before them. At the rabbi's command, it moves on its own and enters the box. The box shuts itself. The exorcism is complete. The entire family is finally free from the spirit's grip, all because of this one rabbi. They thank him with everything they have and return home. The next scene shows them all sitting together having lunch, and there's something about this moment that stands apart from everything that came before. It's the first time in what feels like forever that this family is simply happy together. Clyde and his wife, who had been on the verge of divorce, make the decision to stay together for the sake of their daughters, and just like that, their broken family begins to heal. But this is not where the movie ends. In the post-credit scene, we see the rabbi, the man who risked everything to save this family, driving the Dybbuk Box to a safe location. But somewhere along the road, for reasons unknown, he gets into an accident. A devastating one. The rabbi dies on the spot, and the box tumbles out, landing on the road near the edge of the woods. Whose home will it find next? Whose life will it tear apart? The film ends right there, leaving that question hanging in the air like the darkness it was born from.